Hi, Hani.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. Feeling weird to be here, but excited. So should we just start off by introducing ourselves?
Yeah.
So I'm Molly. I'm Youth Engagement Officer for the Youthwatch. And Hani?
Well, I'm Hani. I've been a volunteer for 2 years and I just get involved with the Youthwatch.
So I don't know about you, Hani, but this is the first podcast that I've ever filmed before. So I'm feeling pretty nervous.
Me too.
So I think before we dive in, it might be good to talk a little bit more about what the Youthwatch actually is. So the Youthwatch is passionate about reducing health inequalities for young people aged 13 to 25. Youthwatch is a youth-led group working within Healthwatch, and it's aimed at ensuring that young people's voices are heard in the health and wellbeing services that we use every day. In short, we make sure that young people's voices are heard and not just spoken about. Emphasis that it is okay to discuss these issues, and we want to be free of judgment. I think that's the main thing. So essentially, for the last 2 years, we've been working on a vaping project. So our research started during COVID. So quite a turbulent time, I'd say, for young people, and a lot of quite significant changes and scary things happening in the world. And the reason why we decided to research vaping is because it's a really contentious issue, I feel, for young people. It's hugely prevalent and is also steeped in judgment and stigma, I would say. And just, I don't know about you, Hani, but I personally feel the way that it's portrayed in the media often kind of reinforces that stereotype of young people bad.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what you think.
I think there's a lot of judgment in like the older generations towards younger people
Yeah.
because of issues like this.
Yeah. It's like these, like, you think of like a group of young people like loitering in the dark in an alleyway, vaping, littering, like just all of the social issues like on young people. I don't
Yeah.
know. And it's just I hate that, because I feel if you're actually struggling with a nicotine addiction, because it is a health issue at the end of the day, like you're not going to want to speak to someone who can help you, because there's so much shame around it. And I feel like with the research that we've done, I really want to let people know that it is okay to talk about, and that there are things in place that can help people. And I guess just like tell the people who are making the decisions that it's important to listen to young people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's really no shame in it.
No,
No.
not at all. And I think by having the shame, it's only perpetuating it more, I would say. Like the issue exists, you can't avoid it. I would say as well, like it's even more relevant nowadays, because obviously our report came out in November 2024. The research itself was over COVID, so it feels like quite a while ago now. But this year in 2025, obviously we had the ban on disposable vapes. So someone could say problem solved, but I'm not sure that is what we're seeing. I mean, I don't know about you, but like I work at a school, snus is on the rise. I know a lot of peers that still vape, they're buying them offline. Like a lot of shops still sell them.
I don't think there's enough being done about it really,
No.
because every day at school, I mean, I see my friends. There's like, it's been normalized,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
even with this ban, people still have ways to like access these things.
By banning it, you're not solving the issue. I mean, we really
No.
need to properly understand the reasons why young people decide to start vaping. But I think that's a lot more complicated, and that's why people don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
So, Hani, why do you feel like there's been such a big rise recently in young people and vaping?
Well, I think it's something people do to fit in quite a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Actually, I think we saw that mainly like in secondary school, people start to vape more.
Okay.
And, I guess it's a way for them to try and uh, fit in.
Do you feel that social media has a role to play in the widespread use of vapes?
Yeah, it's definitely got a role to play. I mean, social media, like, there's so much influence on young people from there. And I feel like e-cigarettes and vapes, they're kind of promoted on the media.
Yeah, I think a lot of celebrities are using them at
Yeah.
parties and things like that. So it looks like, oh, if I want to be cool, if I want to go to parties, I want to have friends, then I need to use this thing.
Yeah.
And I almost wonder as well if maybe within those environments where people are using them, perhaps they're feeling quite uncomfortable. So then having that vape as well is kind of a crux to give them more confidence, possibly.
I've seen it kind of used as like a trick as well, like a party trick, because
Yeah.
you see all kinds of tutorials on, I don't know, how to do a ghost or some sort of.
Like those O's.
Yeah.
Things like that, yeah. Yeah, so it's almost like a challenge. And then like people use things like TikTok and stuff to show like all these cool things that you can do with vapes. Yeah. So vaping has become a massive part of youth culture. I think we can both agree. Obviously, we know it was marketed originally as a safer alternative to smoking. But smoking has, like, because of all the legislation and everything, it's become really difficult to smoke. And I feel that vaping has just kind of naturally like segued in for young people, super accessible. Like you've got all these colours, all these flavours. It seems like smoking's cooler, younger sister. Do you know what I mean? And I think a lot of young people are vaping now that would have probably never started smoking, which is really concerning because they're developing these nicotine addictions that possibly wouldn't have happened otherwise because of all of the legislation in smoking. So we at Youthwatch wanted to understand what is actually happening from a young person's perspective and how people really felt about it.
So we asked young people in like this Cambridgeshire, Peterborough region about their experiences with vaping, and we got 728 participants aged between 11 and 25. And in addition to this survey, we gathered a focus group of 8 young people aged 13 to 17.
Our survey found that 37% of the young people that responded to our survey had used single-use vapes. Alarmingly, 66% of those people had their first vape between the ages of 13 and 16.
Didn't our survey also show that most people started at the age of 14? That's just so early. There also appeared to be a steep incline from the ages 11 to 12. And, I think that coincides with like when people start secondary school.
Yeah, absolutely. So it makes you think, like, what is it about starting secondary school that makes people more inclined to start vaping? I guess you got to think about like the social factors, the anxiety, pressures of lessons, perhaps mental health, but also the huge peer impact. Like suddenly you meeting all these people trying to form social groups, things like that. And then maybe someone offers you a vape and you're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, actually, I think out of those that responded to our survey, 55% said that the reason they started was because of peer pressure and, like meeting trends to try and fit in with the people around them.
Yeah, so I would say that our research definitely shows that people aren't vaping because they're trying to curb a nicotine addiction, but actually it's what's starting that nicotine addiction, which is really concerning. So we spoke to a focus group, all of which were non-vapers. All of them were surprised to hear that 600 puffs of a vape was the equivalent to smoking 2 packets of cigarettes, which is crazy.
That's so much.
For those that don't know, that's the equivalent to 40 cigarettes. So as part of our survey, we asked people to comment on the reasons why they started vaping. One of the most alarming things that I read was that one young person started vaping as a means of self-harm because it wasn't visible. Now, we at Healthwatch understand the enormous wait lists for mental health support. So I find it really worrying that there are a lot of young people who aren't getting that support and perhaps turning to vapes and other substances in order to kind of self-medicate, which is really, really worrying.
Yeah, and someone else replied saying that they started vaping because barely anything is known about the harms that the chemicals cause.
Yeah,
Um, but actually, that worries me quite a bit because that just means that we don't know how bad it could be.
yeah, yeah,
And obviously, people are starting to vape without having smoked before. So
yeah,
it's not to, try and get away from smoking, but it's just causing them harm now.
yeah. And like you can imagine back when our like grandparents were younger and smoking was a thing, we had no idea about the huge health implications with lung cancer and all of that stuff. And now we know, and now there's all these laws and things in place to try and support people to stop. Whereas vaping is this new thing, and loads of young people are doing it and not fully understanding what could happen. And I don't know about you, but I've heard things like popcorn lungs and
Yeah.
terms like that being thrown around. But I also wonder if, especially what we found about how young people are when they start vaping, if that is going to be a gateway into using other substances. Like if you learn that, oh yeah, I can use this vape and I feel really calm for a few minutes, there's going to be a time when that's kind of stops working, and then you want to try other things like alcohol and drugs. And it's just, yeah, I
Yeah.
wonder, I think it's not captured in our research, but I do wonder how many young people have been introduced to substance misuse because of vapes.
Actually, I wonder quite a bit about the other impacts that vapes have. I mean, not just on people, but
Yeah.
on the environment as well. I think
Yeah.
we could go into that a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So a recent article that I read said that last year over 5 million single-use vapes were either littered or thrown away in general waste every year. So that's the equivalent of 8 being thrown away per second. So in our study, we found that 72% of young people weren't actually aware of the single-use recycling points for vapes, which is really worrying. Considering how many are being disposed of. That means that a really significant percent of vapes are ending up in landfill. The small number of single-use vapes that are recycled, so they have to be meticulously taken apart by hand in order to properly process each of the components. And like single-use vapes are not designed to be taken apart. So that's a really like difficult process and really slow and expensive. Lithium batteries, which are used in vapes, are highly flammable. In 2023, there were over 1,200 battery fires in bin lorries and landfill across the UK, which was actually a 70% increase from the year before. So the impact on our local environment is really, really significant and tangible. And I think largely that is down to the huge rise in single-use vapes.
They sound quite dangerous.
Yeah, I think as well, like with all those lithium batteries, you have to think about all the chemicals that are being leaked into the environment as well. Like those vapes that aren't properly being taken apart, like they're just sitting in landfill, like leaking this lithium, I guess. And like, I know how many puffs is it? What, 600 puffs from a vape, but that vape's probably going to be sitting in landfill for 600 years. Like,
Wow.
it's insane. Probably way longer. So I feel like we're going to be feeling the effects of this enormous surge in vaping for the rest of our lives, which is insane. So 92% of young people said that vaping was harmful to their own health, with 45% struggling to stop the habit.
Yeah, so I guess that shows that, even though people know it's bad, they don't know how to stop. And maybe that's because there's like a lack of awareness towards where they could get help from and the resources that are available.
Yeah, absolutely. So other health watches around the country have also been looking into this issue. Healthwatch Trafford found that almost a fifth of children and young people had tried vaping and did so regularly. And while a large portion of those who do vape said that they're either planning to cut down or quit, that there was a lack of information on where to seek support to stop vaping. So 65% of the young people that we asked think single-use vapes should be banned. I feel like we are very much in agreement with that. I don't think anyone's arguing against that. 92% of young people said that vaping was harmful to their own health, so they recognised the impact. However, 45% said that if they tried, they probably wouldn't be able to stop, which is really worrying. Our findings reflect other studies that have been done by Healthwatch around the country.
For example, Healthwatch Trafford found that almost a fifth of children and young people had, either tried vaping or they did it regularly. And while a large portion of those who do vape said they're planning to cut down or quit, there's a lack of information on where to find support and, on resources that could help them stop vaping.
Yeah.
I suppose part of that issue would be that, schools don't talk about it enough. And, although everyone knows vaping's bad, there's just not enough information that's available to these people.
Yeah, definitely. So one story was shared with Healthwatch Bath, and one person actually said that they went to a NHS stop smoking service because they wanted to stop vaping, and they were turned away because it was vaping and not smoking.
Yeah.
Which is shocking, I feel, given the statistic that we found that most young people, that's their first thing. That's how they're getting their nicotine addiction. They start vaping rather than smoking. I think it's important that services are able to support them with that and not just the smoking aspect.
Yeah, but following our report, haven't there been some, better experiences?
Yeah, so after our report, the Healthy Schools Cambridgeshire and Peterborough started a programme called Catch Your Breath, and they go into schools and they talk about the risks associated with vaping, and they also offer targeted support to stop vaping, which is really positive. But that's just Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. There's also Talk to Frank is a really good resource. And there's actually because I went on it because I just had a look like what you see when you're on there, and it's all information about the risks associated. But then they do also link you to a treatment centre, which is where somebody can go to, and there's no judgment about vaping. Like you can go there for other substances, smoking and vaping. Like it's all kind of it's all considered. It's all considered the same, like in the same realm, which I think is really important because it's showing that the same importance is given to that as well as other things, because it is such a prevalent issue for young people. So what needs to change? So the reason I think why we thought that this podcast was so important to do now was because on June 1st, there was the ban on disposable vapes went into effect. So the new crackdown makes it illegal to sell single-use vapes at corner shops and supermarkets, putting an end to the alarming rise in school playgrounds, supposedly, and the avalanche of rubbish flooding the nation's streets. So has it worked? So new data from the charity Action on Smoking and Health shows that the number of vapers in Great Britain who mainly use single-use vape devices fell from 30% in 2024 to 24% in 2025. So whilst use of disposables by 18 to 24-year-olds fell from 52% in 2024 to 40% in 2025. Okay, so there has been a decrease
Yeah.
in young people. I find it quite interesting that that study didn't look at younger. Like they're looking at the 18 to 24-year-old range,
Yeah.
whereas what we found was actually there's a lot of people vaping that are a lot younger than that. But yeah, hey ho. So what does this mean? So young people are not vaping anymore? Problem solved?
But I suppose there's been a rise in, young people using snus. That's come around recently.
What is snus? What is snus? Can you tell us?
Snus is like these little, almost tea bag looking things made of nicotine, and you like put them, I guess, over
Yeah, and like in
Yeah.
your gum.
in your
Yeah.
gum. But that causes quite a bit of issues as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think as well, it's one of those things like a bit like vaping. We don't really know the full extent of the issues associated with it because we just don't have like they've not been around for long enough
Yeah.
to really understand the impact of repeated use. But I do feel like it shows that young people who are addicted to nicotine will just find another way of getting that, and by the government just banning the use of single-use vapes, it's not really solving the problem because they've not asked why are young people vaping. Like, why is it that 11 to 12-year-olds decide that they need to start doing that?
Yeah.
And that's like they've not really asked that question, and therefore people are now just shifting to something else, which is not very helpful.
I think the majority of young people we asked said that there needs to be more support
Yeah.
because obviously they're going to turn to some form of nicotine no
Yeah.
matter what the government does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unless they've got these like support networks.
Yeah, exactly. Like perhaps rather than scare people, the schools and government should be doing more to educate young people and their families about the risks, to actually support these young people that perhaps are actually very vulnerable.
Yeah.
Whether that's mental health or social factors like social pressure, things like that. Why is it the case that our young people are deciding to do this? Yeah, absolutely. So I know we've spoken a little bit about what's happened after our vaping project, but I wanted to mention that our research has informed additional study by Hallam University, which is really exciting. They were commissioned by Cambridge County Council to conduct an insight study into the reasons why young people start vaping, and they were able to use our research, which is really cool.
Yeah. And health teams have also like used our insights to inform new education materials on vaping.
They've created a catchy tune to inform younger children of the impacts of vaping, which I think kind of targets that more primary school audience,
Yeah.
which is really important because those are the people that we found that are more likely to start as they get into secondary school. So it's really important that they're aware of the risks.
Yeah.
But young people also told us that they feel more confident speaking up after seeing their ideas taken seriously. So that's really positive. So Hani, for those that are watching today that feel like they've got something to share, how do they go about doing that?
Well, the best option would be to join the Youthwatch.
Yeah.
And they could share their experiences and get involved in our next project. And there should be a link to maybe our website or just how to sign up.
For the last year, we've been working on a neurodiversity project, which is really exciting because that's my background. And we've been looking at the barriers for autistic young people accessing healthcare. What we're aiming to do is speak to healthcare professionals and get them to put our recommendations in place, which is really exciting.
Yeah, so far we've had a lot of conversations within our group, but we've also been sort of recruiting other people. And we've talked to a lot of autistic young people about their experiences to start with.
Yeah, so we've been going into local groups and charities to speak to the autistic young people where they feel most comfortable, which has been really fun. And we've met a lot of people and recruited quite a few new volunteers to Youthwatch, which is really awesome. Our numbers are really growing and it's an exciting time. So hopefully we'll be able to tell you a bit more about that next time.
Join us again.
Yeah, join us again.